Hello again guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are back in Prepared, and this time we're taking a look at the recently released Just Flight Tornado F3. The Tornado is actually one of my favourite aircraft of all time, so it's always nice to see another one coming into the sim. I never actually got the chance to try Just Flight's Tornado GR1, although I gather it was very well received. So today we're going to rectify that in this video. We're going to take the F3 out for a flight and see what it's all about. This video won't be a full review of the aircraft per se, however it will be a very thorough and detailed first impressions of the aircraft. We'll be carrying out most of what we would usually do in a full review anyway. So we're starting on the ramp here at RAF Valley. We'll carry out a full startup from cold and dark. We'll be carrying out all of the checklists as provided in the Just Flight manual, so that should give us a really good opportunity to get familiar with the cockpit. Once we're airborne and established in the cruise, we'll head outside the aircraft and take a closer look at the external model. And you may or may not be wondering where we're headed on our flight today. Of course, there's only one location that we could really take the aircraft for a proper shakedown. We'll be headed out towards the Mach Loop. Again, this video is not a review, and similarly it's not a Mach Loop time trial, so we'll be taking things a little bit more easily on our run today. But again, it should give us a good opportunity to get a feel for the flight model of the aircraft. Once we've done that, we'll start heading home, and on the return leg we'll meet up with the tanker. We'll take on some fuel, and then we'll make our approach back into RAF Valley. So again, hopefully the video should be a really good breakdown of the aircraft and give you a thorough idea of what the product is all about. The only thing we won't be covering in today's video is the weapons systems on board the aircraft. I'm not really familiar with them yet, and of course there's no call to use them in today's flight. Anyway guys, as always, I do hope you enjoy the video. It should be a fun trip out. If you do, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, you can leave those down in the comments section below. But now we'll get ourselves sat down in the front seat of the Tornado F3. We'll begin running through the checklists and get the aircraft fired up. So welcome to the cockpit of the Just Flight Tornado F3. We've just got on board the aircraft, and pretty much everything is in a cold and dark state at the moment. We've just turned on the aircraft battery. So the pre-flight checks, initial checks, crash bar is set to the aft position, cockpit voice recorder is set to off, flap lever and wing sweep lever are both up, and the probe switch is set to in. APU power switch is set to off. Throttles are in the HP shut position. Cross drive clutch is set to open. Landing gear lever is down. LP cocks are both guarded. Lay arm switch is guarded. Hydraulics are set to auto. Park brake handle is set to park. Air system master will turn on. Rapid takeoff panel gang bar will pull up. And just making sure that the pitot heat, windscreen heat, probe heat and ignition are off. Generators are both off and the fail lights are both on. Navigation lights are set as required. And for the start today, we'll be starting on the APU, so we'll continue on with the checklist, skipping the external checks and continuing on with the internal checks. So oxygen can come on, and both the blinker lights there showing that we are drawing oxygen from the system. Radio is set to transmit receive. APU start checklist, so ground crew and navigator are ready for the APU start. Anti-collision light can come on. We'll set the APU to start. And just waiting for the APU to spool up. That will take a few moments. Overall, as you can see, the systems of the F3 very comprehensive, I have to say. I'm quite impressed. Everything seems to work more or less as per the checklist. And you can just hear the APU spooling up now. The run light is flashing, which is correct currently. Cross drive clutch can go to auto. Left and right hydraulic indications. Show about 100 bar on each system there, which is correct. It's within limits. Generators can come on. And both the fail lights are out. APU bleed will set to open. And the run light is now steady, which is correct. Canopy, we'll leave that open for the start, just so you can hear the engine startup sounds a little bit better. Rad out can come on. And the HUD can go to direct, or DIR, which I assume stands for direct. Coming back down to the left console, the jack release handle is stowed, as is the canopy jettison handle. Emergency air brake and emergency flap switches are both guarded. Anti-dazzle switch is set to off. CSAS, the switches are guarded and we have the green ready lights. FDS byte test, so we'll carry that out. We'll first hit the instinctive cutout push button on the joystick. And we'll open up the guard for the byte test. We'll set the switch to the pre-flight position. We have autopilot and flight director go. So we'll push for the byte test. Cancelling the warning. And we have computer 1 and 2. And we have the relevant warnings on the CWP. So going to pitch. And the warnings go out. We'll hit the instinctive cutout again. And again cancelling the warning. Again we have the relevant cautions on the CWP. And now testing roll. Again the lights go out. We'll hit push again to end the byte test. Again cancelling the warning. Switch can go back to the off position. And we'll close the guard. And that's the AFDS byte test complete. Throttles, they're both in the HP shut position. Coming down to the left hand quarter of the panel. Emergency landing gear lever is in. Flaps, slats and air brake indications as well as the wing indication. All showing the present position of the systems. Landing and taxi light is off. Lift dump indicator we're showing OL. Reverse thrust, we have normal indications there. Hook light is out. AO indicator, we have no flag. Accelerometer is checked. Coming down to the main panel, we have gear down, indicating 3 greens. Nose wheel steering light is out. Right out, we set 50 feet on the bug. We'll do a test there, showing 100, so the test is complete. Flight instruments. Just reset the altimeter. QNH is 1013, showing a heading of about 276 on the HSI there, and about the same on the compass. HUD can now go to the auto position. Engine instruments are checked and we have no flags. Fuel flow we're showing 0, and the fuel contents we're showing 7.2 tons more or less. We'll test that. And the fuel test checks. Coming down to the right quarter, the EPS is off and there's no light. CWP will go test 1. And back to off and test 2. And again cancelling the warning. Brake pressure gauge is checked. TBT switch can go to datum. Engine controls both set to lane 1. Internal lights are set as required. Throttle rock test indicators are both white. Fuel control panel. So tanks are off. Sequence is set to normal. Fuel crossfeed is set to auto. And all other switches are either off or guarded. Environmental control panel, the rain dispersant is off. Standby windshield demist is off. Cabin heat will set to auto. Canopy demist will set to auto. Cabin altimeter is checked. Intake anti-icing will set to auto. And again the lights are out. External lights are set as required. And we are now ready for the engine start. So to start the engines, the ground crew and navigator are ready for the engine start. Left hydraulics can go to the on position. Checking the hydraulics does come up into the white arc, which it does. And we'll go back to auto. Canopy, again we'll leave that open for the start. Ignition can come on. And starting the first engine, the cross-drive clutch is set to auto, so we'll start the left engine first. So we'll hit left engine start. And you can see the NH increasing there. We're waiting for 21% NH. Then we'll introduce the fuel. And there's 21%, so we'll unlock the thrust lever. Set that to run. And just continue to monitor the engine as it spools up. Automatically the APU shuts down as a result of the engine spooling up. So start light is out. Idle RPM should be around 64.5 to 68% NH. We have 66%, so that's checked. APU run light is out. And after the first engine start, the cross drive clutch is in the auto position. RCOV light, we're showing engine. External power was not connected. Left to right hydraulic pressures, showing in the white arc on the left. CWP, checking that the lights there are out for the left engine control and left utility. Utilities test, so we'll test the left and the right. Wing sweep set to 25 degrees. Flaps will cycle all the way down, showing fully down, and then set back to fully retracted. And the flaps showing up. Air brakes will test, so they're showing out. And now in. Controls will trim 2 degrees nose up for the takeoff. That is set. CSAS will engage. Flight controls. Are full free and in the correct sense. Spills can come on. I'm going to do a reset. And trims are set for takeoff. So we are ready to start the second engine. Repeating the same process as before. So engaging the right starter. And again waiting for 21% NH. So there's our 21%. We'll unlock the throttle, move that into the idle position. Monitoring the engine as it spools up. The start cancel light is out and waiting to stabilise around 64 to 68%. Again, looks like we're stable around 66 at the moment. The TBT is still coming up there at the moment though. So we'll just wait for that to stabilise. And looks like we have a good start on engine 2. So after the second engine start, the RCOV light, again that's showing engine. Cross drive clutch, push to open. CWP, go back to test 2. And cancelling that, that is checked. Taxi nozzle, we'll check the function there, so we'll set that on. And the AJ gauge is both going up to 100%. So that's the before start checklist complete. We are now ready for the taxi. So as I say, we are now ready for the taxi, so the pre-taxi checks. Air system manager is set to on. Nose wheel steering. We'll engage. That's set to low. We'll hit the instinctive cutout. And that cancels the nose wheel steering. And we'll set to high. Again hit the instinctive cutout and again it cancels the light. The light there at the moment, I think that's a little bit of a bug. Maybe a P3D V5.2 issue, but not quite shown correctly. Anyway, we'll hit the nose wheel steering again, go back to low. Hydraulics, the left system can go to on, right system stays in auto. Both hydraulic systems showing within the white arc, so that's correct. EPS is set to auto. Flight refuel probe is set to in. Canopy will close up now and lock the canopy. So canopy closed, locked, the light's gone out on the CWP. And again you can hear the quite nice sounds there from the aircraft. Wing sweep is set to 25 degrees. We'll set the flaps to the mid position for the takeoff. AFDS control panel. The ATTD light is out. Oxygen. Again the blink lights showing that we are drawing oxygen from the system. External and anti-collision lights are set. Compass is checked. Altimeter is checked and reset. And the taxi light is on. So park brake can come off. Come up on the power, get the aircraft rolling. As soon as the aircraft's rolling, we'll do a brake check. So brakes are checked. All clear on the left. We won't bother with the taxi nozzle. I'm quite happy we've got enough thrust control here to maintain a reasonable speed. Very short taxi, the holding point just off our 2 o'clock. And checking the flight instruments in the turn. So before takeoff checks, wing sweep is set to 25 degrees. Air brakes are in and locked. Flaps are set to the mid position for the takeoff. Trims are set for takeoff. We'll just come to the holding point. We'll stop the aircraft momentarily, continue with the checklist. Don't want to get distracted by the checklist and overrun the holding point. We'll be in big trouble. So just bring the aircraft to a stop. Park brake back on. So the trims are set for takeoff. Cross drive clutch set to auto. And the light is out. Flight controls. Hydraulics, left is set to on, right set to auto, both systems showing within the white sector. EPS is set to auto, the light is out. Fuel quantity, we're showing about 6.75 tonnes now. Ignition, set to norm. Oxygen, again the oxygen flow confirmed. Intake anti-ice is set to auto. External lights are set as required. Canopy is closed and locked. And we'll assume we've been given line-up clearance, so Air Master system is set to on. Rapid takeoff panel gang bar up. That'll turn on the remaining pitot heats, things of that nature. Nose wheel steering is set to low. Park brake can come off. Now we'll just get ourselves lined up on runway 19, that's departing out towards the south of course, which is the direction we want to depart in. All clear on final. Let's confirm runway 19. And we'll just briefly come to a stop. We'll discuss the takeoff procedure. And then we'll get this thing up in the air. So just before we get this thing on the roll, there's a couple more items we'll carry out to get the aircraft ready for the departure. First thing we'll do, we'll set our nav display to DU1. That will synchronise our screen with the navigator's DU1 screen. Come down to the AFDS, we'll get the flight director on. We'll come into heading mode. That'll give us lateral guidance out towards our heading, which we've set of 110 initially. That should put us nicely on flight plan track. And as I said, we'll discuss the departure now before we actually carry it out, otherwise things are going to get rather busy. So for the takeoff, we'll hold the aircraft on the brakes, we'll come up to full military power. Once the engines are stabilised, we'll come off the brakes, we'll go into afterburners. Rotate the aircraft at a speed of 160 knots. Once we're airborne with a positive climb, we'll get the gear up. Through a speed of 235 knots, we'll get the flaps up. That'll all happen rather quickly. We'll maintain a wing sweep of 25 degrees. Once we're through a speed of 300 knots, we'll get the afterburners off. Come back to an NH of around 90%. Through 500 feet, we'll turn onto our heading. And we'll climb up to an altitude of 3,000 feet. Once we're established there, we'll get the aircraft into track mode, get the autopilot in, and cruise our way down towards the Mach Loop. So feet on the brakes, coming up to full military power. Edges are stable, feet off the brakes, bring the throttles into the afterburner detent. Keeping the aircraft straight on the centre line. It's 100 knots. And 3160, coming back on the stick. That's a positive climb, gear up, and flaps up. And 300 knots, coming back on the throttles. Back to our 90% NH. 500 feet now, we'll start our turn onto our heading. And just coming up through 2,000 feet, so one to go. Just following the flight director lateral guidance there to put us onto our heading. It's working pretty nicely. And just coming up on 3,000 feet, so we'll get the nose down, we'll level off. So we'll hit out, get the autopilot in, and just wait for the speed to come through 350 knots. Get the auto throttle in. So as you can see, overall the aircraft handles the departure quite nicely. It's pretty capable in terms of its lateral guidance. Vertical guidance is just an out-hold mode. Just coming slightly left on the heading there just to regain the flight plan track. And we'll come now into track on the AFDS. 5 miles to run to the first waypoint. The aircraft just coming out to the left there to settle us onto flight plan track. Should be turning back out towards the right in just a moment's time. Anyway, we'll make our way now down towards the Mach Loop. We'll head outside the aircraft, enjoy some of the external views as we do that, and I'll come back to you again just as we approach the town of Abu Dhabi, and then we'll have some fun in the loop. So as you can see, just coming overhead the town of Abu Dhabi, we'll continue to follow the river in towards the town of Mach Loop. Overall, I'd say the F3 very pleasant to fly. It feels a little bit heavy, twitchy and disjoint pitch, but to be fair, every virtual Tornado I've ever flown in any sim always seems to feel that way. In roll though, it's very pleasant, very responsive, and certainly one of the nicer, probably the nicest example of any virtual Tornado that I've flown in a sim to date. Anyway, speed's 450 knots at the moment. Won't come up any further on the thrust, we'll maintain the speed. We're not looking to accomplish any particular time today on the Mach Loop. We're just really taking a little bit of a scenic tour, a bit of a freebie for me, just to get a feel for the handling of the aircraft. You can see the town of Mach Loop just off the nose. That's our entry point onto the loop. So just banking the aircraft over to the right, lining ourselves up with the valley, just passing a beam of the town. We'll initially follow the river and the B404 road out towards the northeast, really just following the contours of the valley itself. Again, the aircraft feeling just a little bit twitchy in pitch. Got the B404 bridge just coming up under the nose, nice little visual reference on the run. So just passing overhead that now, we've got the town of Glantwimmen just off our 1 o'clock. Following the river around to the north, and again following the contours of the valley. That'll lead us over towards the A470 road, which we'll follow throughout most of the run. Yeah, just gently banking the aircraft back round to the right. There's the A470 just passing down below us. As I say, we'll follow that for a large chunk of the run. Again, the aircraft pointed out the hill, we'll be turning left over Dinas Malthui shortly. Just getting a little bit upset in some bumps there, and again I found every virtual Tornado I've ever flown does tend to get pretty easily upset by any turbulence. So just coming overhead Dinas Malthui, overbanking the aircraft slightly just to get us back down towards ground level, and pulling a little bit of G there as you come through the turn up to around 3G. Again following the A470, speed's up to around 500 knots now. We'll be bleeding off some of that in the next few moments as we pull a bit more G. Reversing the turn out to the right to come through bullish exits. And coming up over the crest of the hill. And again reversing the turn back round to the left. Got the cross foxes in just down below us there. Just come back slightly on the thrust. We're going to build up some more speed here as we descend back down into the valley. From the cross foxes in we pick up the A487. Follow that out towards Slimminggill. As you can see, we got up to about 4.5 G there through bullish exits. And the speed just picking up again as we descend up to around 450 knots at the moment. First going to turn back round to the right to follow the valley. There's the lake just off the nose. Before we hit the lake we'll be turning left up Chorus Corner, which is just off our 11 o'clock. Speed back down to around 400 knots, so we'll come back up on the thrust again now. One thing you will notice about the aircraft, and really so far it's one of my only major gripes with the F3, the HUD unfortunately a little bit useless in many scenarios. Unless you are imposing the HUD against a dark background, as we are now, you can't really read off the information on it. So having to rely a lot looking down at the instruments there, which is not ideal. That does seem to be the case though with a lot of HUDs in P3D and FSX. There's Chorus just passing below us. First going to turn back round to the left, again just following the valley loosely now, and back round to the right, and now we'll just follow the valley out towards the exit of the run and back towards Mach Loop. You can see the town just below us off the nose. Speed's 400 knots, so we're good there. And back round, coming over the road to beam the town, so that's usually the end of our run. We'll follow the river back out towards the coast. As you can see, we did burn through some fuel there on the run. We've got about 4.2 tonnes there now. That's more than enough to get us back to RAF Valley, but for the sake of interest and for the sake of today's video, and again just to showcase a bit more of the product, We'll now climb up to an altitude of 17,000 feet. We'll go and meet up with the tanker and we'll take on some fuel before we head back to RAF Valley. So as you can see, we are now approaching the rear of the tanker. We'll run the air-to-air refuelling checklists. So the late arm trigger is safe. Fuel check, we've got 4.3 tonnes on board the aircraft. TACAN is set to receive. IFF is set to standby, HF is off. Nav and anti-collision lights are set as required. Wing sweep is set to 25 degrees. Tank inter is closed. Fuel crossfeed is closed. Tanks, we'll go to refuel all. We'll get the fin tank filled up as well. And we'll get the air-to-air refueling probe out. So the probe is extended, we have the ready light in green. It is worth noting that none of the air-to-air refueling that you get with the Just Flight package is anywhere near the same fidelity as what you'll see in DTS. For example, you can't put the refueling probe into the basket itself. It's really just a question of your proximity to the refueling aircraft. So once you get within a certain distance, the aircraft will automatically start to refuel. Just Flight does also give you the option to have an easy, medium and hard difficulty setting. So you can adjust the option as to how close you actually need to be to the tanker before you start to take the fuel on board. I'm certainly no expert when it comes to air-to-air refueling as well. I can just about manage it in DCS, but anyway, we'll close up with the tanker, we'll hold station with him momentarily, and then we'll head back towards RAF Valley. So welcome back to the cockpit. As you can see, we're now inbound for the ILS runway 13 at RAF Valley. We've got about 20 track miles to run. We're maintaining an altitude of 3,000 feet, doing a speed of around 220 knots. So the first thing we'll do, we'll start slowing the aircraft up. We'll take out the auto throttle and we'll come back to idle on the thrust. Slowly let that speed start reducing. We'll start configuring the aircraft as well for the approach. So the descent and recovery checks, the instruments have been checked. Ride out bug is set. Demist and intake anti-icing are set as required. Wing sweep is set as required. Cross drive clutch is in the auto position and the light is out. And the landing light is on. We're still in heading mode at the moment. We'll wait to arm up the approach until we're on the localizer and just approaching the glide slope. I do find that in the Just Flight F3 we do rather have to micromanage the autopilot, otherwise it doesn't do a great job of flying the ILS. Anyway, we'll take a stage of flap just to help reduce our speed. So the flaps can go to the mid position. And you'll notice there the AFDS not doing a great job of maintaining altitude as we take the configuration change. It should correct, but again I can't imagine that's accurate to the real world aircraft. Just coming slightly right on the heading there just to reduce our intercept angle slightly. We've got 15 miles to run now, expecting to intercept the localizer shortly. And the localizer moving now. So as I say, we'll just stay in heading for the moment. And once we come onto the glide slope, we'll arm up the approach. So continuing with the pre-landing checks, the wing sweep is set to 25 degrees, air brakes are in and locked. The aircraft just warning us there that we still have the landing gear up at the moment. We'll take the gear down in just a moment's time. So as I say, the air brakes are in and locked, spills can come off. Run out bug is set, fuel balance and quantity are checked. We'll talk more about the fuel configuration there during the conclusion of the video. Approach speed has been calculated. We'll be approaching at a speed of 150 knots. Flaps are in the mid position. Landing gear will take down. Glide slope just starting to come in there as well. And we have 3 greens. Hook light is out. Nose wheel steering light. Again, I think that's set too low, but it's a little bit difficult to make out currently. And we'll just maintain our present configuration for the moment. We'll take landing flaps very shortly. So we'll arm up the approach. Just bring in the thrust slightly more there. We're just coming back to our approach speed of 150 knots. We'll take flaps to the down position now. $10 miles to run. You can see the glide slope just coming in there. So we've just taken the autopilot out. As you can see, we are slightly to the left of the runway centre line, but that's no fault of the aircraft. There is actually an offset localizer here at RAF Valley. Once again though, the thrust back at idle, we got the gear down, we got the flaps down, and the aircraft actually accelerating as we come down the glide slope, which I can't imagine is accurate, so we'll have to cheat here, use a little bit of air brake just to bleed off some energy. And the same in the flare, the aircraft really doesn't like to lose any speed even in the flare, so we'll probably have to cheat there and use a bit more air brake just to get us down onto the runway. Again, unfortunately the HUD, as you can see, very difficult to read in these lighting conditions. You can just about make out our airspeed there. Anyway, profile looking reasonable. We're just a touch high now, we'll correct for that. There's our minimum, so we'll continue the approach. So we'll take the air brake now, that'll help us bleed off some speed. You can see even with the air brake, the aircraft really wanting to float down the runway. There's touchdown, we'll come up to full reverse. Start braking as well. And coming off the reversers. Cancelled the warning there. And we'll vacate off to the next left. Get rid of the air brakes as well now. So we'll just join onto the main taxiway. We'll vacate back down towards the north. And we'll head back to our parking area. Once we're on the taxiway, we'll carry out the aft landing checks. So overall the landing wasn't too bad there. The Tornado, I have to say, is a very tricky aircraft to fly on the approach. So on the main taxiway now, as I say, we'll just continue down here back towards the parking area. So just coming back into the apron, we'll get the aircraft slowed down for the turn. A couple of Typhoons parked up there by the looks of it. Well, it seems like the Luftwaffe is actually in town. Interesting. So we'll just follow the taxi line around. We'll go park back up exactly where we started out. Another Typhoon there in a rather interesting shaded gold. We got a Hawk, got a Falcon jet, and then our fellow F3. So again, just slowing the aircraft down, coming back onto the bay. And bringing the aircraft to a stop. Brake can go back to park. And the shutdown checklist. Taxi light is off. EPS can come off. Brake handle is set to park. Rad out can come off. HUD is off. TACAN is set to off. We'll leave the probe in, hydraulics left to off. And just cancelling the warning there. We'll leave the right in auto. Cross drive clutch can go to open. Taxi nozzle is shut. Throttles will close. So we'll shut down number 1 first. And we have a good rundown on number 1. Do the same for number 2. And we have 2 good shutdowns. Rapid takeoff panel will get all the switches off except the battery. Just leave the APU closed there. Radios are set as required. CVR is in the stop position. External lights will leave in their present position. Oxygen can come off. Again, cancelling the warning. We'll open up the canopy. And we'll get the battery off. So that is the shutdown checklist complete. So there you go guys, I do hope you enjoyed our blast around the Mach Loop in the Just Flight Tornado F3. Hopefully as well this video has been a decent insight into the product, giving you more of a feeling for what it has to offer. Once again, I think a really nice effort from Just Flight. Overall the product does seem to be very comprehensive and very well done. Whilst this video isn't a review, we will just touch briefly on a couple of inconsistencies you may have noticed throughout the flight. You may have noticed that the fuel feed logic of the aircraft was somewhat amiss. Just to reassure you on that front, this was an early version of the product, and by the time you see this video the aircraft should have been patched up to correct the issues. The only other significant issue that I came across with the F3 is currently the flight model does seem to suffer from a lack of drag. Just Flight are aware of this, they are looking to update the aircraft's flight model. And I have to say they have been incredibly proactive with patches of late, so hopefully we'll see that fixed up sooner rather than later. All in all though, bar the exceptions that we just mentioned, as I said, I think the Tornado F3 from Just Flight is a really solid effort. As I say, the Tornado is one of my favourite aircraft, and it was really nice to finally sit down, get into the manuals and the aircraft systems, and finally understand a little bit more about how the aircraft actually works. There was certainly enough depth and fidelity of the Just Flight F3 that you could actually do that. Worth a mention for those who are considering picking the product up, if you did previously purchase the Tornado GR1 from Just Flight, then you are in fact entitled to a 25% discount on the F3. Lastly, a little bit of a personal plug, but if you did enjoy our run around the Mach Loop and you are unfamiliar with the channel, then please consider going away and checking the channel out. I actually have an entire series dedicated to the Mach Loop where we put various aircraft around the run and see what sort of time they can achieve. There's also a guided tour of the Mach Loop, so if you are interested in running it for yourself, you can go away and check out that video and get more of a feel for the routing. Anyway guys, once again I do hope you enjoyed the video and indeed the Just Flight Tornado F3. If you did, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, you can leave those down in the comments section below and I'll always do my best to answer them. But for now, thank you very much and I'll see you all again soon.